Intense was released in 2007 with subsequent reformulations. This is going to be a review of a 2014 reformulation, batch number 4W01. The nose behind this fragrance is Francois Dimanchy. He is an Italian perfumer who became Director of Development of Cosmetics and Perfumes for Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy in 2006. Before that, he worked at Chanel, where he created many successful fragrances under the director Jacques Polge, the father of Olivier Polge, who is important to the history of Dior Homme and Dior Homme Intense, because the original Dior Homme was created by Olivier Polge in 2005 under the company International Flavors and Fragrances, or IFF. DHI might have been a collaboration between Olivier Polge and Francois Dimanchy in 2007, but when Dior, under the management of Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, decided to internalize the production of Dior Homme fragrances, the rights to the formulations or ingredients weren't entirely their property legally, so many perfumes ended up being reformulated. And the face of these fragrances predominantly became Francois. The breakdown of this fragrance may be short, but its limited ingredients pack immense complexity and allure. The top note predominantly consists of lavender. Middle notes are orris, which is essence from aged iris root, and breti seed, also known as muskmallow, and finally pear. The base notes are vetiver and Virginia cedar. If you look at what comes from Dior as to how they see their fragrance, the commercial, directed by Romain Gravasse, depicts youthful masculinity with intergenerational sex appeal for women and envy on the behalf of men. The ad has an air of playfulness with a naive feeling of passionate, lustful, romantic infatuation. The new commercial face for Dior Homme is Robert Pattinson, who replaced Jude Law. If you believe fashion inspires fragrance, for me Jude Law just did not fit the Dior Homme image in any way. If you take into account when this fragrance was originally created, the creative director of Dior Homme fashion at this time was Hedi Slimane. If you look at his clothes, DHI just feels like it was inspired by his take on masculinity at the House of Dior for men. I naively sum up his 2007 collection as black, tight, with some leather elements, and mildly androgynous. A designer rocker look. And if you combine that with sex, it definitely fits what I see as the Dior Homme Intense image, and that of the image created by Romain Gravasse in the commercial he directed. The opening is clear, perhaps because there aren't many notes to confuse the nose, but it's very aggressive and acrid. If you've ever had the chance to rub fresh lavender between your fingers, you know that before you break the tissue, it smells very smooth and of lavender. But once you rub it between your fingers, different volatile organic compounds are expressed when enzymes start to break down fats, and those products are then oxidized further and break down to give what we all know as a cut grass smell. And I believe the same thing happens with vetiver, and it probably attributes to the clawing smokiness I get in the opening. The bright floral is almost immediately enveloped in the smoke of burning wood. The distinctive resinous Virginia cedar, which burns quickly, producing thick, black, soot-filled plumes, which when inhaled attack deep in your lungs and olfactory senses, making you want to cough. A sensation that I oddly get when I first smell this fragrance. The smoke subsides and the once sharp, acrid, floral, lavender, and vetiver combo settles, and you fall in love with the almost creamy, soft pear. There's also something slightly oily about it, reminiscent of when you burn a candle and it fills the air with a paraffin type smell. No doubt attributed to the orris root this fragrance contains. The essential note in this fragrance, I believe, is the breti seed, Without it, the pear and floral lavender would almost smell way too feminine. Its amber musky accord masterfully modifies what would otherwise be a really sweet, fruity pear into a very masculine, sandalwood-esque, slightly nutty accord that the nose just can't get enough of in a gourmand or foodie kind of way. It oddly makes me want tea and cake, and I just can't get enough of it. I want to smell it all day, which is part of what I don't like about this fragrance. In my opinion, it really isn't an eau de parfum at all, which is what it was supposed to be, especially the vintage version of this fragrance. To me, this is an eau de toilette, and I think to Dior it is also an eau de toilette because they recently released Dior Homme Parfum, which is what this is supposed to be, and it's a flanker that has more chocolate and leather accords, I believe, and is more intense than the intense. On my skin, I really only get 2.5 hours of decent projection and development, but it's really just the tail end of the dry down after the first 2.5 hours, which I expected more, especially with all the hype this fragrance has gotten. However, the bottle looks amazing, but as a tactile object in the hand, it's very angular and it's uncomfortable to hold. But it looks great and it feels great because it's made out of really thick glass, which gives it a weight that's really feels like quality. And the lid, even though it's plastic, it feels like high-end acrylic. And with its right angles, you don't often see that out of plastic because it's like in a manufacturing process, it's actually hard to mold right angles like that. It looks good and it sprays really well too, which is nice. That said, I would highly recommend this if you're looking for an eau de toilette for an evening or sexy date night fragrance year round. Because it smells great. Yeah. That's Dior Homme Intense by Franz Schubert Impromptu Ges, the reformulated version. And I'll see you next time.